Hello.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Expert Insights Live. Today, we've got Will Grant with us. Uh, Will, I think I'm not going to be able to do justice to talk about all your achievements in your career and why you chose to write this book. So, why not start by introducing yourself, Will?
Yes, I've never done LinkedIn Live before. It's very exciting. So
Nice.
here I am. Yeah, I mean, I I'm completely self-taught, basically. So
Right.
I started out as a sort of teenager building websites in his bedroom. The way that lots of sort of nerdy kids do. Um, and then I went on to do a computer science degree because I just liked all that nerdy computer stuff. And then I ended up doing all the modules that were about human computer interaction and
Mm-hmm.
interface design and all those things. And just found that that was the bit that fascinated me was HCI and those sorts of disciplines. And UX wasn't even really a thing then. It hadn't really been coined. It was HCI was
Yeah.
what everyone called it. Um, and now, UX is one of the sort of hottest fields in tech to work in. Um, but yeah, so anyway, did a computer science degree and then just specialized down more from there and started doing more and more UX work. But I'm quite old and I've been in the industry for sort of 25 years. So I've done like every permutation you can think of, right? So contractor, freelance, working for big companies, working for small startups, all that kind of stuff. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of leads me onto the book because I've done it all so many times that it becomes this sort of blob in your brain of like this compiled blob of like how you do UX. And I
Yes.
thought it'd be good to kind of pick that apart. So, you see the same problems again and again, and you approach a problem, you think, oh, okay, I solved something like this, 5 years ago for X client. And you
Mm-hmm.
start to kind of unpick that and think, well, why do I think this? Why do we do these things a certain way? And what are the underlying principles behind it? And that was when I wrote the book. That was in 2018. And then we've completely revamped it for this edition, for the second edition.
Nice. So before we move ahead, if anyone has any queries, please feel free to pop it up in the chat, and we'll be more than happy to pick it up and answer them for you. Also, there is a banner going on at the bottom, which reads instructions, basically how to get a copy of this book. Two lucky winners could win it. So, Will, I would really like for you to speak us through the book. What I'll do is I can actually flash the book over here. So this is what the book looks like on Amazon. So if you could just talk about it, that would really help readers picturize it.
Yeah,
What?
sure. So obviously this stream is supposed to be useful and not just an advert for the book. So if you
Yeah,
ask
yeah,
questions, then I'll
yes.
stop talking about the book. That's the deal. Yeah. It's 101, which is just a catchy number, and it's split into sections like typography, controls, expectations, state, all the kind of different facets of designing digital systems.
Hmm.
Um, and each one is a kind of single purpose chapter that talks about progress bars or form controls or accessibility concerns. And it aims to be kind of a book of shortcuts. So
Right.
the book's not saying like this is the only way to do these things, right? And all of the ways are wrong at all. But it is opinionated in that it's saying like 80% of the time, this is going to get you 80% of the way there. If you want an out of the box solution for doing a progress bar or a wizard or making users feel, oriented in your app or trust that their work's been saved, then these are the patterns. These are the UX patterns that you can drop in, and most of the time they'll work really well. So it is kind of the first edition was trying to find its audience a little bit, and I wasn't really sure if it was for beginners or for kind of seasoned professionals. And I think it has really found its place as a book for people who are new to UX. We do get
Hmm.
some veteran people saying, oh, "Yeah, it was great to kind of dip into it as a reference guide," and I think it is good for that. But yeah, if you're transitioning into UX from another field as well, we have people coming from product management, people from marketing, people from sort of related disciplines who are moving into product design. It's a good book for that.
Yeah. So before we move to the next question, well, actually, the next point that I had was about the question. So before you answer it, I would like to share an experience. So firstly, the question: who is the intended target audience for the book, and what background should they have? And before you answer it, I want to share one thing. So there were quite a few readers that I got in touch with last year, Will, when we started this book. And there was an interesting lady I came across who had read the book, and she was more than happy to come on a call and give her feedback. So when I was talking to her and I asked her, "So what background do you come from?" And she said, "Well, while I picked up the book, I was actually working in customer research and I was creating survey forms. And at that point in time, we were getting extremely low number of responses on our survey. But now, because these were government surveys, she picked up this book and she picked up quite a few useful tips that you shared in the book, and she started receiving really good number of responses. I hope she's joined today because we've sent out invitation to uh, a lot of our subscribers as well, and people know that this is an actual thing and I'm not making up a story just for the
That's
heck of
awesome.
it.
That's so great to hear. I didn't know that. So that was nice for me to hear. I think, yeah, I mean, I suppose it's aimed at everyone who wants to get better at designing digital products, right? Because I don't want to gatekeep UX because it's not a field that you need a huge amount of academic background in to be good at. And I
Yeah.
think, I've got a computer science degree, but there are plenty of people that I've worked with over the years who don't have a degree background or have a degree in a totally unrelated field because, you need empathy for people, you need respect for people's time, you need the objectivity to kind of look at look at their jobs to be done, like what are they trying to achieve with this product and how can we support that. And those are all things that you can learn, right? There's great courses out there, there's great boot camps, there's great books, and I really think that it's a profession that a lot of people can move into from different sectors, and it's really rewarding. It's a great part of a company to work in because I think you do have a really big impact on the company's products. You don't win every battle, right? Sometimes sales will get their way or marketing will get their way or whatever, but you fight for the user and you win some of the battles and your stuff gets shipped and thousands or maybe if you're lucky millions of people see that product and you can have quite a big impact even as a fairly junior UX designer, I would say.
Yeah. So there are a few questions coming in, and I have a lot of questions as well, but let's take the audience questions. So Raj is asking, how do you measure UX quantitatively? And as experience is a qualitative measure. What is your take on this?
Yeah, qual versus quant. So I suppose that's interesting because so I worked with a company years ago called Rackspace. Rackspace are a hosting company, and they had this really genius idea, which was they had this they called it the Rackspace one question survey, and it was shown as like pop-ups on the page, and it was shown on email. But it was the Rackspace one question survey, and the question was, "How are we doing for you today?" Or "How are we doing today? How did you find what you wanted?" And I love the simplicity and the open-endedness of it. Obviously, it's extremely qualitative because the responses that you get back from that are just so varied and so undisciplined and unstructured. Um, so I suppose I'll talk more about that in a second. But the quant side of things, you've got analytics tools, you've got Google Analytics, you've
Mhm.
got Full Story, you've got all these different page recording tools, click map stuff like Hotjar and Crazy Egg, and I think that's good. And you can put some quant figures together. You can say that, our checkout abandonment rate was 60%. We got it down to 50. The number of people who had to navigate through 10 pages and then get stuck and talk to the
Mm.
chatbot has reduced. So you can do some quant stuff like that. But I think the qualitative stuff is so valuable. And yes, it's a lot of work, right? You open the survey tool and you've got a little paginator that says like 10 pages and you're paging through these comments after comments after comments. But that is the work, right? That's doing the work of being in UX, is reading those comments and triaging them and getting some insights from them. And there isn't really a shortcut to that. You can do sentiment analysis or whatever, but no, I think they're both valuable. But I'm a big fan of really simple qualitative questions to uncover, because you uncover good stuff as well. If your survey is too complicated, the only people who are going to fill it in are people who are super mad, like the really, really angry ones will fill it in. Everyone who's just fine and really liked it won't bother to fill in a 5-question survey. But that little box that says, how are we doing today? You do get quite a lot of, oh, we're doing great, or so-and-so in customer support was really helpful. You get the good stuff in there as well. So yeah, I hope that answers Raj's question. Excuse me.
Yeah, it's also the time spent on the platform as well. As you rightly mentioned, if people are finding it extremely difficult to navigate through the website, then that is not really a good UX. There is another one from, we've got Brandon. Do you guys think someone with customer service experience would be a good fit for the field of UX?
Yes, definitely. I mean, customer service stuff is, it is about understanding people. It's about showing respect and empathy for what they're trying to do, and building your solutions around that. So yeah, absolutely. CX, customer experience design, is a whole field, almost separate from UX. The two overlap a bit, but if you talk to senior people in CX, they are people who run retail stores, banks, online shopping stuff, and it's about that end-to-end experience. It's about saying, from the very start of when you interact with our company, right through to the very end, and then afterwards, and then your repeat purchase, what does that whole experience look like? And yes, there are bits of digital product design in that, but there's also a lot of other stuff in that as well. And I think those CX professionals do some really interesting stuff in that space.
Yeah, I think Brandon really asked an important question over here. So, according to you, Will, what does a UX career look like now and let's say 5 years from now?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm on LinkedIn a lot to promote this book, and there's a weird trend that I see. So on the one hand, I see lots and lots of people looking to get their first jobs in UX. So they've done a degree or related in a sort of design field or a related field, or they're moving from another career and they've done a boot camp, like the General Assembly ones. I know Pact has a lot of online learning. I think Coursera as well. So there's a ton of boot camp kind of stuff out there, right? There's a lot of people posting saying, I can't find my first UX job. Please review my portfolio. What am I doing wrong? But then on the other hand, get spammed by recruiters, constant spam from recruiters saying, we're trying to fill these 5 roles. I saw one the other day that was just an open plea saying, we cannot fill these roles. Please share this with anyone you know who could do these sort of junior, mid-level UX roles. And I find that just bizarre. It feels like there's a huge influx of people trying to get into UX, and also a massive demand in companies for UX. And I'm not sure why those two aren't sort of working. But I think we're definitely seeing more people. It used to be a lot of people from computer science and related kind of design and arts disciplines. And we're definitely seeing that move away from that now to people who just have done the work of getting good at UX and getting interested in it as well. I see a lot of portfolios, I see a lot of CVs, and you can almost instantly tell if someone's into it. Like, they're deeply immersed in the field. They read all the blog posts. They're doing speculative designs. They're like, let's redesign Spotify for, for people with movement impairment, something like that. They've done these speculative projects, and they're just interested in it. And I think those ones always come across better. And then in 5 years' time, the future of UX, I don't know. I don't want to say AI, because I think we're a bit far off, aren't we? But I think it will open up more. I think we'll see people move in from related disciplines. And I already see people in marketing being way more aware of the UX of the marketing they're putting together. And that person you talked about with their survey, someone in market research really who has to think about UX and think about making things. Difficult question to answer, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about AI, but data visualization or business intelligence, probably UX is massively important. I think I have a few colleagues watching the show as well, and there is someone in their team who's trying to create business intelligence reports for us. And poor guy, he tries really hard, and I feel bad for him that every 2 weeks he tries to present it to us, and we're like, this is not doing the reel for us. You're trying to explain it to us, but it doesn't work. So he's the first person I'm going to recommend read this book. pick it
Yeah.
up from my library and do it. Read it.
And what's so funny about that is that data viz stuff it is some of the hardest stuff in UX to do. Like if you're a UX designer and you're being asked to design, a dating app or a ride-hailing app or a takeaway delivery app, those are on the easier side of things. They're still hard, right? But there's still kind of patterns that people know and understand, and you can draw on experience. If you're designing the front end for some huge business intelligence platform with tons of charts, tons of data, then that's a really hard one. So it's like we've got people with no UX background having to do some of the hardest UX design challenges as part of their normal work.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, I can imagine. We've got a comment over here. Been here 10 minutes, nothing is happening. So everyone on LinkedIn, if you can confirm that you can see us.
This has been solid gold. I don't know what you mean.
Yeah. I can see other questions. People are still commenting, so I'm pretty sure that we are on. And if someone can just comment on LinkedIn and let poor Chris know, he can just refresh his screen and hopefully that should work for him. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. Will, can you just inform me one basic thing, and probably for all the viewers over here as well, what is the basic difference between UI and UX, and how do they overlap?
Yeah. So user interface is the stuff. Hey, Brandon can see. Oh, it's fine. It's working fine. That first guy who couldn't see anything, Chris, he needs to turn his monitor on because it's currently switched on. So UI, user interface, is the visual stuff that's presented on your screen that you tap and you touch. Or actually, I guess user interface is also the voice stuff on your Alexa or the voice command on your phone or whatever. But it's the interface between you and the computer where you control it. And UI design is a big field that's been going on for 20, 30 years. Whereas UX is broader. So UX is the whole experience of using the product. It's not just how it looks, it's how it works, right? So when I want to book a taxi, how does that experience go? Is it I pick the place first and then I pick the kind of cab I want? Or is it actually my budget is this and I want to pick this kind of cab and then I'll see if that one's in my area? All these kind of flow decisions about how you move through the product, how it makes you feel, how it helps you get your jobs done. Now, a big component of achieving that is the UI, right? So you can't separate them. And there's plenty in this book about user interface. And you often get people say, well, this isn't really UX, this is UI. And sometimes that's a valid criticism, but I just don't think you can do one without the other. People operate apps through screen and voice and touch, and you simply have to design those interfaces in a way that supports the UX that you're trying to achieve. Definitely.
Yeah, true. So there is one question, and I hope you can make sense of it. Rajas again asked, technology is growing by leaps and bounds, but technology does not guarantee UX. Why is that? What are we missing?
Yeah, I mean, it's never about the tech, really. I think you definitely find that out over a few years of working in the industry, and it's not always about how sort of slick or high tech things look or how they integrate with your life. It's about what they let you do. I mean, the example I always go back to is Google search. So when Google search first launched, it looked horrible. It was a horrible logo. It was a blank gray page with a search box and a couple of buttons. Compared to what else was out there, right? So Alta Vista, Yahoo, they all had quite rich, beautiful, dense homepages with information on. And Google won that battle. And they won it purely because they were helping people get their job done faster, right? There were better search results, a bigger index, faster response times. People didn't really care about the fact that it looked a bit janky and it looked a bit broken, because they were telling their friends, hey, I searched this thing on Google and it was like, I got exactly what I wanted, whereas I didn't get that on Yahoo. And there are probably tons of other examples and things that are ahead of their time, like Apple Newton, which is that handheld PDA that kind of predated the iPhone, completely bombed. The tech was great, but they just hadn't really worked out who it was for or what problems it was solving and those sorts of issues. So yeah, I mean, the technology is a way of delivering the UX, but you can still get it. You can still get it wrong. And likewise, the inverse is true, right? If it helps people solve their problems, then the tech doesn't even matter that much. They just care about getting their stuff done.
Yeah, I really had to go back and Google it. What was the Google's first look? And it was awful
Yeah,
compared to what it looks like.
it's really shocking. But they still won, right? Because
Yeah,
they had a better search engine. Um,
yeah.
yeah, interesting.
So let's do one thing. Let's do one giveaway now, and then we can do one later. So here's a giveaway raffle, and a lot of people are not commenting. Well,
Ah,
lucky for the people who've commented. So there are just two or three of them that I can see. And okay,
oh,
okay. So
Sean's won it.
Sean, so Sean Gandy is one of our first winners.
Sean, you get a book.
Congratulations,
You get a
Sean.
book, and you get a book. It's like Oprah.
Well, I wish it could be as fancy as that, but yeah. Sean, if you can just drop me a direct message on LinkedIn, please add me up and just share your email address. I'll get the book organized for you, and someone from our team will reach out and share the ebook with you. Uh, we will move ahead for now, and the next thing that we'll do is we have more queries. So I think Raj is extremely active over here, which is great. Uh, what is the one big UX pitfall that you can recall?
Um, oh my gosh, there's so many of them, isn't there? Okay, I mean, I like to talk
What
about
is the
them.
one that you're allowed to say? Let's put it that way.
There's one that it's not even on a digital product; it's in the real world, and it always springs to mind because it's a hospital it's a hospital car park parking machine, and I think there's a picture of it that I took on my phone in the book. But it's really interesting because you go to a hospital and you're normally in a very stressful situation. You're either visiting someone who's ill or someone's giving birth or whatever. So you're not really, you don't want things to be difficult. And this car park machine, it had there's only one button on it, right? Which you press the button, it gives you a ticket to park in the car park. There's one button, and they'd managed to make the button completely flat, the same color as the
Oh,
machine, and with no like board around it or anything. It was just insane. Like no one could use it. And by the time I'd taken this picture, they'd stuck sign after sign after sign after sign all over it. So there's all these like A4 printed laminated signs saying, "Press this button. The button is here." And it was this amazing example of like visual affordances. And when you
yeah.
look at a computer interface or a smartphone or whatever, you want to be able to see what is tappable, what's clickable, what's tappable, how do I operate this thing? And too often we just can't see those visual affordances. And every site does it differently. So how a button looked on site A is not how a button looks on site B. And a bit that you can type in on one app is different to the bit that you can type in on another app. So we're sort of forcing users to relearn all this stuff again and again. And that car park machine was just like the real life version of that software, and I thought it was funny that they had to actually make multiple signs and sellotape them onto the machine.
It's just awful car park machines. And any car parking machine, they are awful.
They're
And a lot of
mostly
them
awful.
here. I don't know why do they expect us to have coins in this day and age where people have gone contactless.
True.
Yeah, fair enough. Thanks, Raj. That was a fun question. And he has another. Uh, is there any human psychology quotient that's given a thought during the life cycle of a UX?
I mean, so I mean, the sort of the founding fathers of UX all came from that background. They all came
Hmm.
from the cognitive psychology, human factors side of things. A guy called Don Norman who wrote a book called Design of Everyday Things. It's kind of like the seminal text that every UX person has to read when they're studying it. And it's 35 years old. It's quite dated. If you've been working in UX for a while, you're going to know everything in that book already, really. But it's fascinating because it's about it's about real life stuff. It's about doors, and I think the cover has a picture of a teapot on it. It's about kind of the cognitive psychology of how we mentally parse and process things. And um, yeah, really interesting. I don't have a psychology background, so I think whenever I'm having to make decisions about, are users going to like this, or how do they think, I'm either going on gut feeling, or I'm going on user research and testing, or I'm doing A/B tests, right? There's a lot of great tools that let you set up A/B tests incredibly easily, and you can say, well, do they prefer button A or button B, or do they want to add this to the basket first and then pick shipping, or do they want to pick their country first and then add to the basket? All these kind of flows, and you can set up these tests really quickly, and you can get your answer. Turns out that psychology is weird and interesting, and actually people prefer it this way. I recently did a test where, okay, so I just did an A/B test where I was doing a basket and the button says buy now. And my theory was, if people are signed in, will they be scared that pressing buy now will charge their card immediately? So the B variant was proceed to checkout. So kind of telling people that there's a checkout on the next step. You don't need to worry. You'll get a chance to confirm this later. It's kind of what it's implying. Anyway, I ran the test for a month, 9,000 different sessions through it, and I was wrong. Buy now worked better. More people converted, more people got through the checkout, more people paid by having that immediate buy now button. They weren't scared of going to another step, and my assumptions about psychology were completely wrong there. And if I'd just gone with it and I'd have just changed it on a whim, then we'd have reduced our conversion and cost the company money. So yeah, really interesting.
So I have one question which will lead me to my next point. Will, how much time do you spend in an average week doing these A/B tests and on customer research?
So research is so actual user interviews is a really big part of what I do. So I'm lucky enough to work at a company which has a really big audience, so it's quite easy to tap into an audience of hundreds of people, and we can put together user tests. Probably doing a user interview every week, maybe twice a week. They always last about an hour. They're recorded, they're transcribed, and we go through the transcripts and we pick out what people are saying. So that's quite a lot. I would say A/B tests, not much time because they're really quick to set up, but you need to leave them running for a long time. You really need to leave them running for like 30, 40 days to get a statistically significant number of people in them. But then, I mean, really, if I had to describe like what I do in a day or a week, it's not as much design as you would think. And I think that's the case for a lot of people who work in the modern economy. There's a lot of meetings, there's a lot of sync meetings, there's emails, chat messages, and that's part of doing the work as well. Keeping stakeholders informed of what you're doing, asking other people in the business, well, if we change this button, do we need to get legal to review the terms and conditions because we changed something that might affect their terms, for example? So you're doing a ton of that kind of liaison across the company. And it helps raise the profile of UX, right? So people in different departments are like, oh, okay, we've got a UX person and they're doing this stuff that makes it better for users. So next time we do this, we should talk to them. Yeah.
So basically what you're doing in your book is you're saving people all this time to run those A/B tests and do all those research and the customer interviews, because you've been doing this for the last 20, 25 years now. So
Yeah.
you've just poured your experience, more than your skills, your experience and the learnings. You poured it down and just set up these 101 principles for people that do this and you're all sorted. You're set for life.
Yeah, that's the idea. That's the idea. And there's always going to be edge cases and weirdness. And I mean, I think I talk in the book about aircraft cockpit. You know, most UX people would look at an aircraft cockpit and say, this is insane. There's like thousands of switches. But actually, that's the right UX for a pilot, you know?
Yeah.
It is complicated. You can't hide that complexity away. You don't want one big touchscreen in the middle of the plane where you've got to go through a load of menus because you need to change a setting that's urgent. You do need all of those controls there. And I think, so saying let's make everything simple doesn't always work, and there are always edge cases. But yeah, that's the idea. It's kind of a shortcut guide to fixing a lot of these problems people have, and hopefully some stuff that people haven't thought about as well. There'll be some things in there that they maybe haven't considered.
Nice. So one thing, Will, can you just inform me and everyone viewing, what's new in this edition as compared to the last one?
So this edition,
what can they expect different? If I can put it that way.
Absolutely tons different. So I thought I was going to do a fairly minor rewrite, but actually it's been completely overhauled. So I would say 80% of the content has changed, maybe even more than that. There's a load of new illustrations, there's tons of new chapters, lots have been changed, removed, tweaked. I think the fundamental principles underneath are still the same, right? So we're still trying to achieve the same goals of user control, simplicity, visibility, all these kind of basics, but we're doing it with some slightly more refined ways. And I think a big bit of feedback I got the first time around was from people who said, well, this is these are all very like high-minded principles. They're all very idealistic, but the messy reality of working in a company, I don't know how to implement these. So there's a lot more in there about implementation, about, you know, how do you do this in a big enterprise full of stakeholders? How do you get them to buy into this stuff? So it's been revamped in that sense. Loads of new illustrations, lots more kind of examples and call out tips and stuff. So yeah, I'm really proud of it. I think it's come out really, really good. So I'm pleased with where we got to, definitely.
Amazing. So I was going to ask you a next question about what your hope is uh, that the readers would learn from the book, but I think Raj has already answered the question before I could do that. I think this is the thing about good UX as well, isn't it? That your audience can answer it before you can even ask the question. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's true. It is loaded with patterns. It's mostly like how the commonly accepted patterns for how you do this, and it just sounds so simple, doesn't it? You know, it's like, well, do what everyone else is doing, but there is still, you know, skill and art and a craft to that, and that's what UX people do every day. It's mapping how your organization works, onto what the user wants. Right, you might have their information in 5 different databases, but the user doesn't want to fill in 5 different forms, right? They want a form, the bare minimum on, all arranged in the right way, that they can kind of skip through and autofill and hit save. And it's about doing that work internally in your organization to make those things work. Yeah, I mean, I'm really pleased that you mentioned reinventing the wheel, because I think that's just a major pitfall that people have. And also it's understandable, you know, if you're a junior designer coming up in the industry, you know, you're 20 something and you're full of passion. You want to leave your mark, right? You want to think, I've done something cool, I designed this great new thing. And you can understand the drive of people to do that, but I also think that's a mistake, because people don't want to learn your new thing. You know, if I'm opening a dating app, it's because I want to meet someone new. I want to swipe through some profiles. I don't want to learn your new weird way you've got of picking my age or picking what pets I've got. I just want to do the thing that I've set out to do. And that sounds really simplistic, but actually delivering that to customers is actually really hard, as we've seen from lots of failed products along the way.
Yeah, true. Well, let's do our last raffle. I think we don't have any more questions left.
Okay.
And let's do our last raffle and you about
Sure.
what to expect from the book.
I hope Sean doesn't win again. You can't have 2 copies.
And that's fine. Even if he wins, I'll just click on draw again. Yeah, Sean won again. I knew that would happen.
What is Sean doing? Is he a hacker?
What if he wins again? I'll have to just keep on. I'll just be sat here clicking on draw again.
Oh,
Chris
Chris.
Calvin.
Yes, I'm glad Chris won it, because he was having technical problems early on.
Yeah.
So,
Chris, I really hope you've turned your monitor on and you can finally see us. And in case you can and you can hear us,
we should go
please
and
get in
message.
touch with me. Yes, please drop me or Will a message and share your details with us, especially your email address, and we'll get the book organized for you. So, Will, before we close the session, I think uh, there was one thing that I wanted to ask about. You've created a community for the readers of the book. Can you please speak to the audience more about that? What if they
Yeah.
purchase the book and if they are stuck? What happens next? Do
So
they wait for you to write the next edition, or what do they
yeah,
do
so
next?
we wanted to try something with this book that we haven't done before, which is to set up a chat server. So we've used Discord, and we set up a free Discord server, and the link is in the book. So if you buy the book, you go to the link and you sign up. I think we've only just started. There's like 20 or something people in the server already, but we want to get that up to, you know, most people who buy the book can join the server and dip in, to have discussions with me, with other, you know, veteran UX professionals who've also bought the book and got involved, share work, share tips, review my portfolio, all that kind of stuff. I think it could be good. Obviously, like any community, it depends on getting a bit of traction and getting some critical mass in there. So hopefully we'll do that. And if not, we haven't lost anything, but it would be really nice to kind of have that direct channel to talk to the rest of the community with as well. So I think you can paste the link possibly.
Yep. So I can share it later. And
Okay.
in case people are not watching live now, so I don't think so. We've got a lot of people watching live right now. So where can they find the link of the book and how could they join it? I
Um,
think it's in the book, right?
it's in the book. Yeah, you have to buy the book to get the link. That's how it works.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll share it. But yeah, there is. I do have the access to the link over here. So if you can see the message about now, Levi has sent it already. Thank you, Levi. But I've sent it
Amazing.
as well. So it would go on to Pact as well on the YouTube channel. So yeah, it's there on LinkedIn. It's there on YouTube. Thanks a lot, Levi.
Thank you.
So
Awesome.
yeah, so thanks for joining us, Will. It was
Great.
amazing to have you here. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. And uh, yeah, it was really fun to talk to you once again.
Thanks. Thanks for talking to me. I really enjoyed it. And
Yeah,
yeah, have a nice rest of day or evening wherever you are.
and you will.
All right.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. And I'll see you next time with the next episode that we have. I'll announce it very soon. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.